The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
There we go. Guess that it's Friday again, and you're back with your best pals in the whole wide world. Good because I've not got any. And welcome to the locker room once again. You'll be sick of seeing us by the time the European football finishes because we'll be with you every week as well. So we were on last night and we're on tonight and we're on not tomorrow night. But we're here on Sunday and we're not here on Monday. We're here on Tuesday. That's enough for that. So welcome to the locker room on Independence Live. I don't know why I go down wee holes and I can't really get back out. Must be because I'm getting old. I'm joined tonight by my usual co-host as always, Graham. How are you?
I'm good. Glad it's the weekend. It's been a long week, but glad it's the weekend finally.
And we are Reagan and Mikey. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. Just glad for it to be the weekend again.
Doing good, Michael. Doing good. Back here on a Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, no rest for the wicked. But anyway, we're here until 7 o'clock. We're going to talk about football all the way till 7 o'clock. You lucky people. So let's we were on for an hour last night after the Malmo Rangers game, and I thought, well, let's start with the game at Ibrox on Sunday. So if we look at the fixtures on Sunday, just like that, I click my fingers and there you go. I wish I can do that in the house, but I can't. Sunday games, Rangers against Hibs. Saturday games, it's a first kind of evening kickoff on the Saturday for Celtic and St Johnstone because they've not been involved in that 6:15 kickoff before. I've heard it's a good night out in Perth, but there you go. I meant Perth, Australia. I never meant Scotland. Motherwell, St Mirren, Kilmarnock, Dundee United, Hearts, Ross County, and finally Dundee against Aberdeen. We will get into the games soon. Don't forget you can comment on anything we're talking about. We're on Facebook and we're on X as well. No, it's okay, Graham. I'm not going to say that joke because I've said it so many times. I'm sick of myself saying it. So I will just say, yeah, go on to X and watch the show and comment if you want, and tell me if my jokes are getting worse than Graham's. That can't be any good for you. So let's start off with the game on Sunday then. That's why Mikey's on the show. Rangers against Hibs. First of all, Mikey, what was your thoughts on the game last night in Malmo?
I thought it was a very professional performance. I mean, travelling away to Malmo, they're very solid at home. And I wouldn't say Rangers made easy work of it, but they obviously were quite comfortable in the game and obviously getting a few goals as well. It's a great start to the European campaign, which is not exactly boding well for Sunday, but there's always hope.
Yeah, there's always hope as well. We done the show last night, guys, and we were talking to Andy about it was a very professional performance, and I thought it was a kind of comfortable performance as well. And I thought Rangers figure won about 3 or 4-0 last night. Reagan's
gone.
Reagan's gone, but now he's back. No, I was just saying, Reagan, we done the show last night.
Michael, Rangers did well last night. I felt it was probably the best performance in quite a number of weeks. I feel like if they can do that more often, then they'll be on a good track. But it's just good to see the brand new players come in and do well as well. I thought a few of them did well, and I feel like Dessers. I mean, for all the criticism, he certainly scores a lot of goals. So no, I think in terms of Rangers, I think they're in a better place now. I think I said this last night in terms of I think everything will settle down now in terms of because we'll be in the stadium and stuff like that as well. So I feel like things will start to settle down now with Rangers. They've obviously got a big game on Sunday, and then they've got the big Europa League game next week at home to Leon, so that'll tell us a lot. But I think Rangers fans will just look forward to getting their first league match at home at Ibrox on Sunday. It'll be on the telly, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'll come back to the fans' point of view of the game to Mikey, because David Gray was asked the question yesterday in this pre-match press conference. Graham, we were saying to Andy last night on the show that it was the most kind of like complete 90-minute performance that we saw for Rangers for a while, because you and me on the show has been saying Rangers has played well in spells, but really like not put it together, and they done that last night.
Yeah, last night they were very good. They should have won that game by 5 or 6. We said that last night. The chances they had, getting off to such a great start, in the first 20 seconds, and after that, I thought they were quite comfortable. I said it last night. I was surprised at Malmo. They seemed to leave a lot of space in the first half. There wasn't really a game plan. Second half, they were better, but Rangers still created numerous chances to kill that game off. So they were far better yesterday. There was a lot of positives for Rangers yesterday, which I don't think there has been for weeks. And I said that to Andy yesterday. You look at a few weeks ago when the fans were going mental after the Celtic game to yesterday. It's a completely different occasion now. They were far, far better yesterday, but they've got to build on that now. That can't be a one-off. They've got to keep that going, because yesterday was a very good performance, but they're already behind Celtic. And let's be honest, Celtic should beat St Johnstone comfortably tomorrow. So the Rangers are going to Sunday's game 8 points behind. So they're playing catch-up even this early in the season. They have to just keep winning and hope that Celtic drop points. And I've said it already, I don't see where Celtic are going to drop points. But yesterday was a far better performance, and I think it'll have taken a bit of the pressure off Philip Clement, because I think he has been under pressure with performances. But that last night was far, far better, but they've got to carry that on now.
Good evening to Liverpool. I take it that's not your first name, but if it is, that's a brilliant name, actually. Yeah, good evening, and hopefully you're well. You're watching on YouTube as well. Mikey, I'll come back to you about the game now, because David Gray was asked yesterday at the press conference, because this is the first game back at Ibrox, and if I'm right in saying it's not actually completed the Skigam, and there was actually a doubt that if there's any Hibs fans going to be at the game, but according to David Gray and Hibs, the fans will be there. How important would it be for the fans to be there to back their side against Skigga, not having any fans at all?
Well, I mean, it's obviously very important. You obviously want the fans to be right behind you. We've obviously seen that away fans are very important, especially in the Old Firm derbies. I mean, obviously, apart from a couple where there's been a few away wins, like the home team's been very much elevated by them having the full crowd capacity. So it will give us a bit of a sort of incentive, but I think that overall Rangers are a better side than us, so we're going to need a bit more than the fans to kind of get us over the line. But it's obviously good to have fans there. It's never nice travelling to somewhere and not having any away supporters.
I think it was really poor how long that took, though. To eventually get the whole thing about how many Hibs fans should be there. That took far, far too long. I think it only got sorted a day ago. When you've got a game in a few days' time, that took far too long. That should never have happened.
No, exactly. Yeah. Especially because it's on TV, you want two sets of supporters there to make a bit of a kind of atmosphere, not a kind of one side game. I mean, we see it in the games, and when Celtic goes to Ibrox and vice versa, when when Rangers comes to Parkhead and kind of like all the rest of it. Robbie Collins, how are you? You're watching the show on YouTube. He's saying that Rangers need to take their chances. That they're missing they're missing too many chances like that all the time, and the teams will avoid of missing the chance. And that's the thing, Mikey, that Rangers could have won the game 4-0 last night, but I don't think they're going to get away with that when they come up against Man United or Tottenham or next week's game against Lyon.
Well, I mean, I guess you kind of have to take the games in isolation. Like, for example, yes, they missed chances yesterday, but they won the game, so they could afford to. In some of these games, like, for example, Man United and Tottenham, they won't be given that many opportunities, so they won't have that many opportunities to miss. And all it takes is one opportunity to score. So, yeah, although there is something they need to work on, it's been something they've needed to work on for quite a while now, especially Dessers. But, yeah, I wouldn't be massively concerned about it because I mean it's been an ongoing issue for a while now and it's nothing new. And I mean, sort of in sort of comparison to yesterday, it didn't really matter that they missed the chances because they were quite comfortable in the game. Obviously, you can never be fully comfortable in a European game, but they had very much, they were the better side, so they had the sort of they could afford to miss those chances now. They won't have the same opportunities against the likes of Tottenham and Man United, but as I said, all it takes is one or two to go on and score.
Good evening. Keep your comments coming in, by the way. Nice to hear from you. Nice to hear from Gio 59542. I hope I'm right because I wasn't that good at bingo on YouTube. And Paul Donaldson, our usual Aberdeen fan. Hello to the team as well. So let's go on to the game now on Sunday. Mikey, what are you expecting from Hibs? Because obviously they've had a bit of a rest because they're out of the cup. But meanwhile, Rangers had two difficult games in the cup and a European game.
Well, yeah, we are going to have to play off that. Rangers aren't exactly the dominant force that they have been in years gone by, so we always can go in there with the hope that we can get something out of the game. Do I expect us to? No, but I think that it's going to be one of those games where we're probably going to sit deep and go for counter-attacks, but you know what, if we can come out and try and meet them head on and we get an early goal, then you never know what can happen, but it'll be a tough game. I think everyone knows that. Travelling to either of the Old Firm teams is very, very difficult. But yeah, my main aim is to try and hopefully get something out of the game, but at the very least leave without getting battered. But yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to it too much.
Greg, what's your thoughts on the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is always difficult after the European game as a Hearts fan. I know that more than anything. But I think Hibs have to try and take advantage of that. They will probably sit very deep and try and hit the counter-attack, and they've got the pace to do that. But they have to start. I think it'll be a case of what we said about Falkirk last week, taking the game in stages, trying to get through certain parts of the game, trying to keep it tight early on, try and frustrate that Rangers crowd who will get frustrated if the game's not going their way. And then if they get chances, they've got to take them. You can't afford to go to Ibrox and not take the chances if you get them. So I think Hibs will be a threat. I think they've got a bit more of a settled side now under David Gray. I've seen a bit of a reaction from him now. So it'll be a tough game for Rangers. This will be a game they're not looking forward to. But I do think with the quality Rangers have got, you would think they will win this game. But I think Hibs will be a threat. The pace they've got. Martin Boyle now looks far, far better recently. So he will be a huge, huge threat. And defenders don't like playing against pace. He will cause Rangers a lot of problems. But if they get chances, Hibs, they have to take them. Because I don't think they'll get very many.
Mikey, I know when Hibs or any other team goes to Ibrox and Parkhead, and Robbie makes a good point here on the chat. How important is set pieces for Hibs on Sunday?
I mean, yeah, it's important. You need to try and capitalise off the set pieces, but we need to be able to score goals from open play as well. We need to be kind of expansive and try and. I mean, obviously, it will be a very defensive performance, I'd assume. But if we can score off set pieces, that's very important. But the main thing is we just score goals. It doesn't matter how they're scored. But yeah, we are quite good from set pieces this season. Obviously, it was brought up that we scored 3 goals from them. But we've had some big chances from them as well. We have some tall players in the team, and we've won a lot of sort of knockdown goals as well in second phase. So yeah, I think we're quite good from set pieces, but I think we need to try and score from open play as well, because it doesn't really matter how you get your chances. It's just when you get your chance, you have to score against a team like Rangers.
I know it's going to be a big test for Hibs, Claire, because obviously they've not had a game for 2 weeks. but it's also a test for Rangers as well. Coming out that hostile atmosphere, the first game in, second game in European football, albeit this is the Europa Cup. So it's going to be a big test to see how Rangers are going to come back from Malmo, but also for basically a full house as well.
It will be, and they have to show reaction, and they'll take positives from yesterday. They were very good yesterday, won the game comfortable, it was said, but they are at home. It's a game that they'll be expecting to win. And like I've just said, they will know, I'd assume that Celtic will have beaten St Johnstone tomorrow, so they know that they're 8 points behind, so they have to keep on winning and try and keep the pressure up a little bit. They'll definitely be up for it. They might make a few changes, try and freshen the squad up a little bit. I thought, like I said yesterday, I thought Casemiro looked very good. I thought Diamandi was fantastic yesterday. They might try and freshen things up a little bit, maybe bring Ross McCausland in, who looked decent off the bench yesterday. So they do have options, but they have to win. Like Mikey says, he just wants Hibs to win. Rangers have to win. They're at home. They'll be demanding. The crowd will be demanding. They can't afford to drop points on Sunday because they're already quite far behind Celtic already. They can't afford to drop any more points. So I think it'll be a very tough game. But I think you'll see the very start of the game how it's going to go. If Rangers are on the front foot, playing quickly, creating chances, then it'll be a case of when will Rangers score. But if Hibs can keep it tight and then hitting the counter-attack, like I said, with the pace they've got, I think they can cause Rangers problems. This is going to be a really, really tough game for Rangers. But it's a game they have to win. They have to win at home.
Mikey, David Gray was talking yesterday about the game. He said it's going to be a difficult game. It's a good venue, but one I'm looking forward to. But it's going to be a test. Now, I know the atmosphere is going to be electric because of the first league game and the European result and all the rest of it. But in terms of an away team going to Ibrox or for that matter, Parkhead, do you have to shut out the atmosphere?
Well, I guess you don't really need to shut out the atmosphere. You kind of need to try and stop the other team from playing off the home atmosphere. Obviously, the away fans at the likes of Celtic and Rangers, they're not in ideal positions to try and generate the atmosphere. They're usually kind of stuffed in the corner, so it's very difficult to generate your own atmosphere at ground like that. But I think as long as you can try and even the away team can play off the home atmosphere at times. You see it in Europe quite a lot. But yeah, I think that it's just very much that the Hibs team needs to try and prevent the Rangers team from playing their way. It doesn't really matter about the crowd or anything, because the crowd's not really going to impact the way you play unless you end up getting intimidated by it. But these players have played there before. These players are experienced in that type of atmosphere. So yeah, I'd be very surprised if it plays a massive impact.
And if you're watching the show over in Swigan, what Mikey meant was stuffed, as in they're basically shoved in the corner and forgotten about. But that's that's a Scottish phrase we use. I've not heard that one for a wee while, Mikey. So 1-0 to you, by the way. That's brilliant on that one. Regan, what's your thoughts on Sunday's game?
I think it'll be a good game, but I think Rangers will prevail victorious just because they've got the confidence as you guys have spoke about there in terms of that they've just had like a big win in Europe and going back to Ibrox for the first league match. I just feel like as much as David Gray will set his team up and he'll think they've got a great chance, but I still feel like that Rangers have too much quality over the 90 minutes. But you never know. I mean, Mikey will know that famous victory when John McGinn scored a couple of years ago when Simon Murray, I think, scored as well. So
yeah, I was there.
Oh, were you there, Mikey?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Oh, what a game that was just to be at 3-2.
Yeah. I believe Slivka scored as well. I can't really remember much of it, but
He
yeah.
did. Slivka, yeah, what a goal he scored as well.
Yeah.
That's good memory for you, but I mean, that's probably the last time they've won it. I've not checked the stats, Mikey. I know I should for this show, but
yeah, I believe that was. We've drew there a couple of times, but that's the last time that we won, yeah.
Going back and what you were saying, Mikey, as well, but Paul Donaldson makes a comment there to say if it's still 0-0 after 20-25 minutes, then the home fans will turn on the players, and you will hear the anger from the stands. I think as well that as Graham was saying earlier on, we were talking about Falkirk last week, and by the way, I wasn't on the show last week, but Falkirk done a brilliant job, even though they get beat. That sounds a bit daft, but no, they played well, Falkirk, last week. They do you have to take these kind of games in stages in terms of, like, I don't think that when you're at home you really take these kind of games and moments because, like, you've got your home fans, but in terms of, like, going to Ibrox as well, you've got to take it in, like, 50 minutes, 20 minutes, and get to kind of like half time, and then maybe in the first 10 minutes of the second half, hopefully you don't lose a goal and see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I did bring this up last week that you can kind of take it that way, but at the same time, you often get it where a team will be very defensively strong for the opening 60, 65 minutes. Then when the first one goes in, the second and the third, then maybe even the fourth goes in right towards the end. So the main thing is, yes, take it in stages, but when you concede a goal, don't end up falling back and just falling into your shape and defending deep again, because that is how you end up getting beat 2 and 3-0. I think they need to try and take it, yes, in stages, but if you can see a goal, keep going. Don't revert into a very defensive shape, because you see that way too often. And yeah, I mean, if you get till half time and 60 minutes and 70 minutes, the home fans at a lot of the big grounds, even the likes of Celtic, Rangers, even Hearts and Hibs, when they're playing a team they probably should beat, when it gets to a certain amount of time, the fans will start getting really frustrated, and that's when you end up seeing the likes of St Johnstone and Ross County picking up points away from home at these bigger teams. Obviously, especially the likes of Hearts and Hibs, they don't really go to Celtic Park and pick up many points, or Ibrox with many points. But yeah, you do often see it a lot where if you can keep tight for the opening half an hour or so, the bigger teams will start getting very frustrated, and that's just kind of what happens a lot of the time anyway.
Reagan, from a Rangers point of view, it's going to be very interesting to see if Clermont leaves the same team, or should I say start the same team as Thursday night, because they've got a big game coming up on Thursday night against Leon at home.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating, but I think you'll be pleased with what you've seen for his brand new signing, so I think they'll feature. And also the guy that lost his passport, can't remember his name.
Egamani.
It'll be interesting to see if he starts, because let's hope he's got more football ability than he has if I got his passport. So yeah, I just I think Rangers will stick with the same team because of the manner of the victory last night, but I think it's just interesting to see these players bed in. But I think one of the big things for me last night, I don't know what you guys feel, but I just feel the Rangers bench this season is very weak. I don't feel there's many players on the bench you can say, right, he's going to change a game.
I would agree. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Mikey. I just wanted to mention some of the names: Robbie Fraser, McCausland, Dowell, John Suter. They're not guys that are going to change much a game. Okay, Ross McCausland, he proved my point against me and he scored last night, but he's not somebody that you can regularly rely on to score goals. Robbie Fraser with Hurley. Seen Robbie Fraser, John Suter. People are saying he's quite lackadaisical with his marking and stuff like that. So he's obviously somebody that the manager doesn't have the full trust of yet. And for me, guys, I just feel like the Rangers squad this season is a lot weaker. And when I looked at that bench last night, I thought, as much as it'd be great to see a title race, stuff like that. But I just feel the squad this season has got a lot weaker than last season. I don't know if you agree.
I would agree. But I would say that there's a bit of an injury problem at Rangers. I know you've obviously got the likes of Matondo and Danilo, who's always out. if they're back at full fitness, then even a couple of names really sort of boost that squad up from the bench. And I know that Robbie Fraser's not very well known, but let's say it was Red Van Yilmaz on the bench. It looks a lot better, but yet again, he's not going to make the impact. So the likes of Robbie Fraser are never really going to be brought in to change a game because they're more defensive minded. So, I mean, having the bigger names on the bench just visually makes it look better, but they're never really going to come off the bench anyway unless they have to. And they've still got some good quality there, you know, like John Sterling, who I think's very decent off the bench, and I think he'll get sort of minutes this season. And once Matondo and Cortez are back, then that bench strengthens tenfold. And yeah, the team looks a lot better. So I think that, yes, the squad's not as good as it could be, and there's obviously improvements that are needed made because they're quite far behind Celtic. But I don't think it's quite as bad as it looks at the moment because obviously the injuries they've got are kind of maybe not influencing the first team very much. But when you look at the bench, there's quite a big impact there, and they don't have the biggest squad anyway.
Graham?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't think the squad is, but it's nowhere near Celtic's level. Of course, it's not. But I do still think they've got decent players in there. And actually, John Souttar started yesterday and actually played very well. And so did Robin Proper as well, who, I wasn't a massive fan of him first, but he's done very well. But Rangers' squad is nowhere near the level that Celtic's is. It's miles off it. But I think they've still got a decent enough squad that should really finish second in the league. But right now, the way Aberdeen are playing, Aberdeen's squad looks stronger than Rangers just now. And I want to bring up a point that Andy made yesterday as well, about Connor Barron. I actually think Barron started quite well for Rangers so far. You know, he's not done anything massively flashy, but he's still been decent for me for Rangers so far. And I thought he was excellent yesterday. Now, I don't know if Paul Donaldson's still watching this, but Andy said yesterday that a lot of Aberdeen fans didn't really rate Connor Barron. From what I've seen, I think he's actually slotted down quite well, from what I've seen.
I agree, but I think Connor Barron at Aberdeen was not very good. He was their fifth choice midfielder, so I think that says really enough. And that was when they were kind of really struggling last season. So yes, I think he's taken a big step up this year, and fair play to him. But Aberdeen fans have every right to say he wasn't good enough for them because last year he wasn't. He didn't play well when he did play, and he was kind of down the pecking order, especially towards the end. So yeah, I don't think he'd be one of Aberdeen's best players at the moment. I know how weird that sounds because he's doing so well for Rangers, but I just think that the way Aberdeen are playing at the moment, the squad they're putting out, does he get in that team at the moment? I genuinely am not convinced he does because I think Nielsen and Shinnie have been absolutely excellent. And maybe he gets in over Nielsen, but it's a close one. And Connor Barron, yes, he's done well for Rangers, but if you were to see if he'd start for Aberdeen, it's very sort of 50-50. I don't think he's quite really stepped up his level a massive amount, although he has been quite good this year.
I think that's a great point Mikey makes in terms of, like, although Rangers fans are going a bit overboard saying that Conor Barnes the great start of the season, I don't think he's somebody that's a great talent that you go, or that he's going to be the next John McGinn or the next Billy or the next Callum McGregor. He's just okay. You know, and this is a guy that was a couple of years ago, he was at Brecon with Simon Donnelly and Mark Wilson. You know, like, I just feel like sometimes because he's the best of a bad bunch that we overemphasise just how good these players are. I think sometimes the Rangers fans need a little reality check in terms of, okay, this guy's done okay, but also don't want to put too much pressure on him. He's a 21 year old player who's just done okay at Aberdeen. He was playing off the bench, he was starting matches, but I wouldn't like to put too much pressure on him.
There you go, Mikey. Paul Donaldson answered your question. Actually, Baron Wigan, it would not getting to the Aberdeen Scotland's, let's say, at the moment, and that's going to be a tough test because Rangers not going up to Aberdeen in a few weeks' time before the international break. But then, But then they said Paul Donaldson says he had a decent season, but no more than that one. So we will see what happens on Sunday at Ibrox. Mikey will be sitting with his Hibs scarf on under the couch shot somewhere watching the game. So, yeah, Rangers against Hibs, 12 o'clock kickoff on Sky. Let's go to another TV game tomorrow night, Reagan. At 5:45, a bit different than 5:30. Timing and all that, 15 minutes later. St Johnson against Celtic. Before we talk about the game, guys, I would just like your thoughts on the Celtic's women's team. I know we touched on it last night on the show, Graham, Reagan, about Celtic making the Women's Champions League their first ever side to do that in Scotland. How big achievement is it for Celtic women's and Celtic's men's team, Reagan, to be in the Champions League?
It's a great flagship moment for Scottish football. It's a great moment for Celtic as well, in terms of both of their team being in a big stage in Europe. And I think as well, it's a great stage for the women's, especially because they need more funding and they need time to be involved, and they need people really to buy into it, because as much as we talk about they need funding, they also need supporters to go and support the matches. So hopefully, but I did see a bigger crowd there last night from the TV pictures. So hopefully, you know what it's like, Michael, when there's a little bit of success, people jump on it and they become engrossed. So hopefully, more female supporters can really buy into what the manager and the players are doing, because you've got to say it's a remarkable achievement, because I don't think that Celtic and Rangers are paying the best money. You know, Michael, Mike, will tell you there was a time a couple of years ago where it was the two Edinburgh clubs that were doing they were doing well in the ladies' game, and then it was Glasgow City as well. So I think in terms of Celtic, I think it's a good milestone, and it shows other clubs what can be achieved.
I'm hearing today that the games won't be at Celtic Park. They'll be at New Douglas Park in Hamilton. How disappointing would that be for the women's team playing against in the Champions League not to play a game at Parkhead?
I think.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think if they can sell out the Hamilton, then it would maybe make it look a better spectacle. Because I think sometimes if they're not going to sell the stadium out, then it maybe dilutes the atmosphere as well. So, but to play devil's advocate as well, and I'm sorry to any Hamilton fans that are listening, but it's not a very, it's a plastic pitch. It's not a very appetising place for the players to be playing on a Champions League night. So I think in terms of that, I think it's going to take away a little bit of the prestige. But I think as soon as they cross over that white line, as they say, Michael, on all the football coaches, as soon as they cross that white line, I think things will change and they want to do well for Celtic. So,
Mikey?
I mean, it'd probably be the first ever Champions League game to be played in Hamilton, which would be interesting. But I mean, I think I guess it'd have a bit of a negative impact on the actual sort of spectacle of Celtic playing in European football, because they'll instantly look like the outlier when the other women's teams are playing at these big stadiums and Celtic are playing at Hamilton. Which is, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but I mean, it's not exactly like New Douglas Park's a great stadium. I think it's quite, obviously the plastic part comes into it. There's only 2 proper stands there, so I think it'll take quite a lot away from it. But I just would like to see a Champions League game played in Hamilton. I think that'd be quite interesting.
They could always go to Hamilton Palace. That's where a good nightclub. Anyway, moving on. I don't know why I said that for. The Champions League, so it's another battle. Brighton, Reagan, Celtic's up against Chelsea, but also they have got FC 20 and they have got a small matter of Real Madrid, Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fixtures to be involved in. Michael knows well, Chelsea have been a powerhouse in the women's matches. Emma Hayes, she's moved over to America. So I think in terms of that, I mean, I think to play Real Madrid, I don't know where they're playing the match. Surely to God they're not playing in the Bernabeu
Or
because
maybe they'll play that game at Hamilton.
because if Real Madrid are playing Celtic in the Bernabeu and the second legs in the Bernabeu, they might as well just give up. You know, you know what I mean. So no, that it's just great for Celtic to play these games. I mean, for Celtic to get the opportunity to play against Real Madrid and Chelsea, like you said there, Michael. I mean, a lot of the way these matches were kind of on part time and there wasn't many crowd there, but now they're starting to get bigger. Probably the biggest club in the world probably is Barcelona. I mean, I watched the ladies' match over there, Michael, and it was getting 70 odd thousand. We're watching Barcelona playing, I think it was Leon, and I'm going, yeah. So it was just amazing to see 70 odd thousand people playing. But yeah, so I just hope that the ladies can take the opportunity. Obviously, if they can get a win, that'd be great because I don't expect them to get through as much as I would like them to win the competition, but I don't think that's possible.
So the women's in the Champions League, the men's are playing on Tuesday night, and that gives me a wee plug to plug the show on Tuesday night. We'll be here at 6 o'clock on Tuesday between 6 and 7, me and Reagan, and we'll be on after the game between 10 and 11, and we'll do the same on Thursday night for Rangers. Sorry for the Hearts game as well. So, turning your attention to the game tomorrow, Graham. Sorry, Sean Neal is on YouTube asking, "How are you?" Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, thanks for asking. So other questions are available. But don't ask that question. That's what I say. So St Johnstone against Celtic tomorrow, Graham. 6:15 kickoff in Perth. What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping to see a decent game. I'm expecting a comfortable Celtic win. Let's be honest, I don't really see St Johnstone winning this. They've had no wins in 5 games and still no manager. And I know that Paul Donaldson says was going to ask about Peter leaving, maybe going to St Johnstone. That might be a decent option. I know that Scott Brown's ruled himself out. I don't know how Alistair feels about that. But there's other people that might get the job as well. I still think Rhys McCabe might be with a shout of that, to be honest. I said that weeks ago. But, for St Johnstone, it's it's a bit of a free hit. You're playing a Celtic side that are in really good form just now. Last week, I have to say, I thought Falkirk for a long spell last week were outstanding, but Celtic's quality shone through. They're bringing guys off the bench that end up winning the game. They've got so much quality, and I just think it could be a very long night for St Johnstone. And again, I keep on saying this, and I said this to Alistair as well, so I just think, again, tomorrow you're going to see McDermott Park pretty much full of Celtic fans and barely St Johnstone fans, which I never like to see. I don't think the home fans should be outnumbered by the away fans. And I've said that for so long. It's not a good look for Scottish football. As an outsider looking in, that's not a good look if you're seeing the home end basically full of Celtic fans. I don't like that. Same with Livingston as well. So it's a shame that St Johnstone just can't get the fan base to come out and support their team. Even when they were in Europe, they had decent fans and they never turned up again. Winning 2 cups, you think, surely now they'll get fan base. But no. But yeah, I just think Celtic will be far too strong tomorrow. They've got such a quality squad. Adam Eder scores twice last week. Fantastic signing. I said that at the time. I don't see anything but a comfortable Celtic win. I don't see St Johnstone having anything about them to get anything out of this.
To play devil's advocate there, Graham, like you're saying you don't like to see it overcrowded by the away fans, right? So say the Hearts or Celtic sell out the stadium. Surely that makes that a great spectacle for Scottish football because the last thing you want to do is say, well, we're not going to let Hearts fans in because they'll sell all the tickets, but we're going to keep it empty because we don't want the home fans to be offended.
I would disagree with that simply because the whole argument from down south is that it's a 2-team league. And the rest of the league's just tin pot. So if the SFA or whoever it is allowing Celtic and Rangers to come and take 2 or 3 stands at each ground, then that doesn't help the stereotypes at all. That does the opposite. It just shows that other teams are more focused on the likes of Celtic and Rangers obviously taking more tickets, and I know why they do it for the monetary value, but I think that
Sorry,
if
Mikey,
you're looking at
but surely you want to see as many fans in there as possible. I mean, so you're saying because somebody supports Celtic, they shouldn't get in the stadium?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if it's a home game, the team that's at home should have more fans.
But,
Because it becomes an away game for them.
but then Graham just said that St Johnstone don't have any fans, so
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that obviously a lot of people from Perth support Celtic, and yes, Celtic fans are going to miss out on the game. But the main point is that you can't be giving 3/4 of your own stadium to Celtic, because that gets completely rid of the home element of it, and that's on St Johnstone to try and bring more fans to the stadium.
but then the other argument I would ask you then, Graham and Mikey, is then surely you don't want to see like 200 fans and a dog there. You want to see the place packed out. You want there to be songs. You want there to be everything there, balloons, everything to be happy. You don't want the place to be empty and then it looks bad in the cameras.
Yeah, but it's not every Celtic fan's going to bring along balloons and pyros and everything to make the visual element better. It'll be a bit louder, but you're not going to have the right home element if you're giving 2 or 3 stands away to Celtic or Rangers. And if you look at it, these smaller teams, since they've started bringing more away fans in, how many times does St Johnstone and Ross County and Livingston go and beat a team like Celtic or Rangers? Because they don't have they're going to be outnumbered by the away support, which is going to completely get rid of the home element for them.
Surely, if the away fans are more, surely they want to win more to send those fans away unhappy. I just don't see it being a bad thing, because surely it's getting more money to St Johnstone as well. Because like you're saying, if they've not got the supporters, then they're still getting money for the supporters that are coming in for Rangers, are coming for Celtic.
Yeah, that's why they do it, but I'm not saying that I'd want that to happen. I mean, let's say if, for example, Crewe Alexandra got Man United in the FA Cup, should Man United go and take 3 stands and then go and win 3-0, and then is it really a home game for the smaller side? I mean, more fans are going to try and come to the games anyway, I think, home supporters. But the issue is a lot of the home supporters then go in the Celtic end for when they end up playing Celtic or Rangers.
Mike, I totally agree with you, but I'm just saying from a Scottish football point of view, I'm just sick of turning on Sky Sports and the stadium's half empty. There's no one there. I would rather see every stadium full.
I'll let someone else come in on this. And
do you know when you wish you hadn't there said something? I wish I hadn't there said that.
I know.
My real main point was the fact that I just wish St Johnstone and teams like that had more of a fan base that could fill these grounds out, because it's not a great look. Like, even if you're watching, like, for example, let's just say, for example, St Johnstone against Ross County. I mean, listen, you're right, Regan, there's nobody there. But teams have got to get more fans in. I said it earlier on. I think I've said it to Alistair before. St Johnstone won 2 cups. If you can't get fans out when you've just won 2 cups, then you've got no chance. They've got to have more of a fan base to bring more fans in, and they just don't do enough, I don't think.
Do you know what the issue is up here? Sorry, with Scottish football, I would say is that, see, if you're down in England, people, let's say we take a lower league team, for example, a Barnsley or someone like an Oxford, they will support Oxford, and that is it. A lot of fans that support the likes of Livingston, St Johnstone, Ross County, I've spoke to fans of them. A lot of them have a second team, or the team that they support, Celtic or Rangers. If you look at Ross County fans, their entire Ultras group are Celtic and Rangers fans. If you look at the Livingston Ultras, their entire Ultras section supports Celtic or Rangers or Hearts or Hibs. These teams, because Celtic and Rangers are so much bigger than everyone else in Scotland, everyone, if you were to ask them in Scotland, Celtic or Rangers, a lot of them will have one of the teams that they prefer over the other. And, for example, if a team like Celtic comes to Livingston, the entire Livingston Ultras clear out because they're all on the Celtic end. that's just how it is up here. And I mean, I don't know how you'd fix that. I don't know how you'd even start fixing that. The only real teams that I can say that there isn't any real fans for either the Old Firm teams is Hearts, Hibs, and Aberdeen. Outside of that, a lot of the fans of every other club in the league have another team, a Celtic or Rangers, that they like as well. And that's just how it is up here.
But Michael,
So-
that's down to Neil Doncaster and Ian Maxwell and people like that trying to markedly better, increase the ticket prices and decrease them and say like this is what you get. You know, everybody in for a tenner. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but that doesn't give you more fans necessarily. That just means that more people come to the game. Like see with Livingston, they will give out free tickets a few times a season. The people that are coming for free are not necessarily Livingston fans. They're just people that want to come to the game, and the chances are they're going to support one of the big two teams because they are the big two teams that are ahead of everyone by a mile. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's just how it is.
So you're saying, Mikey, that but this is the first game I've heard this. Actually, I'm quite interested in this now. You're saying that Livingston fans support Celtic or Rangers?
Yes, they most definitely do, or Hearts or Hibs. If you look at the Livingston Ultras section, if you look at a lot of the Livingston supporters, I mean, there's Livingston supporters in the home end with Celtic tops on. There was Livingston fans that went away to Raith Rovers with an old Rangers top on, and the entire Livingston Ultras section support Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, or Rangers. And that is genuinely true. I don't really know how you'd research it, but if you look at any of them, they all go to Hearts and Hibs games.
I think that's mental.
Yeah, it's genuinely true as well.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's the first game I've heard of it, but yeah, it's another good Scottish word tonight, mental. But I've never heard of that before. You know, I've heard of people like Graham supporting Hearts and Liverpool. That's fine because it's like he's not supporting Hearts and Ross County, say, because they're in two different divisions.
Just as well because they both play tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. That was the first team that came in my head. But like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just think that weird. Let's move on because I can go anywhere with that story, but I'm not going to.
I wish I had started that now.
Spoil my weekend now, them. Now I'm interested in Liverpool, right? Because he says, I support Liverpool. I hope you do. I remember that. And Hibs. And that's fine. But Liverpool supporting Liverpool, oh, that's a bit weird. Anyway, let's move on. That's just me. Let's talk about the game now, Reagan. Celtic's had a full week to prepare for the game. And so is manager St Johnson.
Yeah, I was expecting Scott Brown to be linked. He obviously came out last night and said that he was staying at United. He's not back at Johnson, so it'll be interesting to see who they go for. But in terms of Celtic, Michael, I mean, they've been absolutely flying it out of the traps this season so far. So I fully expect Celtic to get the job done tomorrow. I mean, and you just, like you said earlier, Falkirk were the best team I've seen Celtic play this season. So they were really trying to get on the front foot. They were pressing high. They were creating chances. So, no, I think it'll be a difficult one for St Johnstone too. So, no, I think Celtic will play the strongest possible team. And I feel like in terms of the players that'll be available, I think you'll play Engels again tomorrow. I think Kyogo will come back in. I think Vickers will be back in. Taylor, because I don't think
No.
Viking.
Sorry, Reagan, just can't come up you there. Vickers is out tomorrow, out of tomorrow's game. He's been wearing one of these kind of fancy moon boots. So he's a doubt for tomorrow. Yeah.
Is he available for Tuesday?
At the moment, Brendan Rodgers says that we'll see if he's in for Tuesday, but I doubt he'll be playing on Tuesday night.
Reagan, can I ask you a quick question? I heard this on another podcast a couple of days ago. I don't know if you heard it as well, but I heard somebody phoning up another radio show saying that Stephen Welsh and Anthony Ralston are nowhere near good enough to play for Celtic. Did you think that was quite harsh?
I think it was good. I think Tony Ralston, you know what you're going to get with him. You know what I mean? Alistair Johnson is a very good player. You know, Celtic got offers for him during the summer window. You know, I was told that, Graham, and that's why they're looking to put him down in a brand new contract. But I think in terms of Tony Ralston, I feel like he is the ultimate professional, a really good second choice, because I think at a club like Celtic, it can be very difficult, Graham, in terms of, right, well, when do you actually play your second choice? Because Alistair Johnson's a great player, right, Graham? But Tony Ralston is a dependable second choice for the Scottish Premier League. You know what I mean? He'll never let you down. I'm not saying he's a world class player, but for the Scottish Premiership level, he's perfect for what Celtic need. And I think matches against Championship teams in the League Cup and that, and maybe when Celtic have won the league at the beginning of April or May, like this season, that'll be when Tony Nelson will be drafted in. So I think he's a very good squad player, Graham, and I think he's a very valuable member of the squad. I think Stephen Welsh is a little bit different because he doesn't really get much time on the park, but I think he's someone that has attracted interest from Serie A. I think sometimes, Graham, that we need to remember that people like Stephen Welsh and Tony Ralston, they don't really get that much playing time. So when they get playing time, people just tend to jump on their backs. But when you look at it in reality, see when you're in a squad, Graham, you're going to need a squad game. And I think people need to understand that, see, Tony Ralston and Stephen Welsh, they're never going to be up to incredible standards week on week because they're not playing regularly. So what are you expecting them to do? You know, but sometimes I feel like that show that you mentioned is a little bit clickbait, Graham. You know, I call it clickbait, you know, in terms of they're looking to, like, kind of shock jock callers all the time and trying to talk it up. But I think Stephen Welsh and Tony Ralston are very dependable players.
Yeah, very dependable. And Brendan Rodgers was facing the media today, rigging about the game. He says it's an important game for us. We did well there in my time here when it was first here, but it'll be a very difficult game. Meanwhile, the caretaker manager of St Johnstone, Andy Kirk, was saying that no word on the new manager yet, but we are focusing on the game. It's going to be a very difficult game tomorrow. Mikey, how does St Johnstone approach this game? Because the game's at home, live on telly, but no manager.
I don't know. Their squad is miles behind Celtic. Like, they're going to have to sit deep. They're going to have to defend. And I don't see any way in which they win the game. St Johnstone are in turmoil. Their team is not good enough. And, I mean, the whole thing with Scott Brown, if Ayr United were to play St Johnstone tomorrow, I have no doubt that Ayr United would win that game. St Johnstone are really poor at the moment. And, I mean, hosting Celtic, they need to try and go about it the way that they did near Christmas last year, where they were very solid defensively, especially in the first half, and then obviously go ahead and try and, I guess, hold on from there. But it's going to be absolutely very, very difficult, especially with the calibre opponent they're coming up against. The only hope they have is to try and catch Celtic cold, but I don't give them really any hope tomorrow. So it'll be a very, very difficult game for the manager to try and deal with.
Mikey, who do you think St Johnstone would go for a manager?
Ian Murray. I reckon he's a shout.
Not a bad shout.
I mean, you would have probably said Rhys McCabe's a good shout at the start of the season. And for some odd reason, Airdrie fans are voting him out at the moment. So, I mean, that's an idea. I think he still needs to get a bit more experience before he moves up to a team like St Johnstone. But if it was me, I'd be going for Ian Murray, and that'd be my number one shout. I mean, Jack Ross is out of a job. He's doing something down in England. He's obviously one of them that I'd say for every job they should look at him, but I don't think he'd go to a team like St Johnstone. But for me, I think we need to be trying to target Ian Murray, in my opinion.
How obviously Carter Vickers is out the game tomorrow. Reagan, Alice Guy Johnson is back in training. I'm not sure that he's going to make the game, but how big a loss would it be for Carter Vickers to be missing tomorrow, but also, just for talking sake, out the game on Tuesday, because you actually saw it last week in the Falkirk game?
Yeah, I think Michael, it's really going to be an integral miss for Celtic that he's out on Tuesday, because he's a very important player, and I think you've seen that against Bratislava, like you said last week. So I think in terms of Celtic, it's a huge miss, but it's also time for Trusty to step up, and he was bought for £6 million. So it's time to trust in Trusty. So we'll see how it goes. Mikey, I'm liking your Watford top there, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I brought it just for Graham, because this was the one that ended the unbeaten run. So, yeah, fantastic. But, yeah, I don't even know why I wore it, to be honest.
Graham, what do you think of tomorrow night's game?
Like I say, I can't see anything but a Celtic win. I don't really think it's going to matter that Carter Vickers is out, because I think you could put you in defence and he managed to keep a clean sheet against St Johnstone. But yeah, I don't see
it that far.
I don't see anything other than a comfortable Celtic win. St Johnstone just don't have the quality. You know, it's going to be a case of how many they concede. They can't concede early. You know, it's always the same when you play one of the Old Firm. You're just trying not to concede an early goal, because if you do, it just gets worse and worse. But I think they'll have to defend really well tomorrow. You know, Andy Kirk's got a big job tomorrow. But again, there's no real pressure on him, because he's not going to get a job full time. So there's no pressure on him. It's a free hit. I think they're still missing Sidibe and Kim Pioka, which are two massive misses, because they're the only pace they've got on that team. I know that Alice talks about Graham Carey, who is probably St Johnstone's best player just now. But it doesn't really matter what they do. I just don't see St Johnstone doing anything tomorrow. They just don't have enough quality. They should have beat Ross County last week. You know, 3-1 up, that should have been 3 points. They didn't get it, and they won't get anything tomorrow. That generally could be 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Can I just come in quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, if you look at St Johnstone's team at the moment, they've got 3 across the midfield, and they're 3 defensive midfielders of Sprangler, not Michael Smith, something Smith, Matt Smith, I believe, and Jason Holt. They are not attacking-minded players at all. They're wide players on the midfield, which are wing-backs, really. They've got 2 flat full-backs in Dre Wright and Andre Raymond. I mean, that entire team, apart from the sort of strikers, there's no attacking threat within that team at the moment, and that's the main issue they've got. I mean, if you look at Celtic, they've got Carter Vickers out, and they're replacing him with someone who costs more than the last, I don't even know how many years of St Johnstone transfers, and that's on one player. Austin Trusty's probably worth more than 3/4 of that St Johnstone squad put together. So, I mean, it just shows you the gulf in sort of money and, squad quality, in all honesty. So, I mean, the only real positive I can take from a St Johnstone perspective is that they've got a very defensive team anyway. So, they're going to be sitting in regardless. But, I mean, that team is, I don't think it's Premiership quality at all.
I will say, just because he was at Hearts, I have been impressed with Mackenzie Kirk so far. I think he's looked quite decent.
But you never know, it's a one-off game, and listen to captain 90 minutes and all that. But yeah, what do you make of what do you make of Mikey's point there, Reagan, about like Celtic could put out the second team and still beat St Johnstone? I think he's been a bit. I know what you're saying, but I think he's been a bit unfair to St Johnstone there, because you need to be a bit more professional than that, Reagan.
Alistair would agree. Telling you that now.
I don't mean Mikey, baby, because Mikey is very professional, more than Michael, as well. But no comment, Graham, please, because I know what you're going to say, and you're right. But Graham, Reagan, what do you think?
I think in terms of St Johnson, I don't think that. I think this is probably one of the worst squads they've had in recent years. I think like if you look at last year, they had like a few players there you could really go right. Well, he's a decent player. Glenn Middleton, Chris Kane. Um, you know, they had players that you could really say, right. Well, he can really take the game with his scruff of the neck. But right now this season, now I know Graham and probably Mikey are not big fans of Craig Levine, but you would really have to say this probably one of the worst squads I've had for many years to taking a back up Craig Levine for a second. But what happened to big uh, Opiazza, Graham?
He got injured before the season even started in a freak accident at home, and he's not played yet.
Oh, for God's sake, poor Piazza. I remember I said to you he's going to be a good player as well.
I've always said, right, I like Tucci. He's not a natural goal scorer. He's miles off that, but he brings a chaos factor, but he's not a goal scorer. I mean, I think I'm not going to say I hated Levine because I didn't. He was a fantastic player. He did well in his first spell at Hearts. Second spell didn't really work. But his recruitment at St Johnstone was awful. And all he did was sign players that he knows. He just signed ex-Hearts players that he knows. Jason Holt, Mackenzie Kirk, Uche. That's all he did. He didn't bring in any real natural quality. He just signed ex-Hearts players because he knows them.
Can I also say, sorry just to butt in there, but he also brought in a player from the ninth division in England and someone from the Ghanaian League. And I mean, I know Aaron Essel's been okay so far, but I mean, that recruitment is certainly not very good quality at all. And I know that obviously it's really harsh to say that the Celtic B team would beat, well, the second Celtic 11 would beat St Johnstone, but the truth is they would. I mean, if you were to give the Celtic second 11, there's players like Adam Ida, James Forrest, I mean, obviously Austin Trusty, Tony Ralston, Stephen Welsh. I mean, every single one of those players would be in the St Johnstone team. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. And I mean, if you're looking at the St Johnstone perspective, Sidibe and maybe Kimpioka get into the Celtic second 11. Well, probably not ahead of Adam Ida. But I mean, if you look at the quality within that team, I don't think it's certainly not very high at all at the moment.
Okay, so that's the game tomorrow night, 6:15, between St Johnstone and Rangers, and the game is on Premier Sport. Talk about the rest of the game coming up this weekend, Mikey, and I think out with the kind of big two, if when you like to call it, Celtic game Rangers at the weekend. Motherwell and St Mirren, that's a very interesting game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, neither side are. I mean, well, to be fair, Motherwell have been very decent at the start of the season. They're sitting fifth in the league. They're off to Hampden for the cup semi-final. St Mirren have not been amazing, but they've not been poor either. I mean, they've been a bit sort of off and on this season so far, so I think it'll be quite a good one. I'd probably back Motherwell to win that though, because I just think that if you look at the start both teams have had, if you look at the trajectory they're both on, I'd say that Motherwell are probably going to the game as favourites, which I wouldn't have said this time sort of a month or two ago, because I think the start of the season for Motherwell has been very sort of pleasantly surprising.
And I think as well, Reagan, that the headlines will be written before the game, obviously, what's going on at St Mirren. I would rather not speak about that as well, because I think that listening to Stephen Robertson today, that's a board decision, and that's not a football matter, so let's not talk about it, because it's just not worth talking about it. It's a shame because he's a decent player as well, but I suppose money goes to your head sometimes as well. But let's get back to the game tomorrow. Decent game, as Mikey said, Regan.
As Motherwell and St Mirren, I mean, Stephen Robinson the Stephen Robinson derby, you would call him, Michael. So he's going back there, and obviously there's a lot of attention on him through Scottish football in terms of people are thinking, could he possibly be the next Hearts manager? Is
No.
that oh, Graham, come on!
No.
You need to appreciate what the man's done.
He
I
is
do,
very
but
good,
no.
but he wouldn't go to Hearts anyway, I don't think.
Right, Graham, I want you to tell me your reasons why, because I've got so many reasons why he should.
He is a good manager, but I don't want to go down the Scottish route again. It's boring. It's the same old names that get brought up. Derek McInnes, Stephen Robinson. I want something different. I want a fresh approach. Robinson doesn't exactly play fantastic football. You know, no disrespect, he's a very good manager, but he's not what I want. I want us to go a different route. I don't want us to keep going down the whole Scottish manager route. We need something different. We've got Star Lizard coming in, which will hopefully help us with that, but I don't want another Scottish manager.
Sorry, Graham, but Mikey will know, and so will you, Michael. The last foreign manager you got, Daniel Stendhal, that worked out well.
Well, to be fair, I don't think you can blame Daniel Stendhal. He had one window, and that team was absolutely atrocious anyway. But I mean, I would agree to an extent with you, because I think that sometimes going for a risk, obviously it's a risk, so it could go one of two ways. I think that obviously they've seen the way that Aberdeen have run, and I mean, I'm not saying that's what Hearts are expecting, but I think that it can kind of looks a lot better when it's working for someone else. I mean, if Aberdeen were in a poor run of form at the moment, I don't know if that would be the same sort of reaction. But I think that obviously if you go for tried and tested, they'll do good, they'll do all right, but it's nothing different. I think if you go for a fresh approach, it gives you the chance to kind of expand and go above the sort of limits that have been set. But I think last season Hearts were excellent under Naismith, and obviously the way that things have started has not been good. But I think if they were to bring in a Scottish manager now, they'd get a decent tune out of the players. They'd finish probably fourth this season. But then after that, it kind of just becomes the old formality of fighting for fourth or third or whatever. But I think that if they go for a foreign manager and it really works, then they can end up kind of pushing forward for a few seasons.
I did a poll on my Twitter page, and I said 3 managers. I said Derek McInnes, Robinson, Alec Neil, and then somebody else. And I said to Hearts fans, who would you want? 1% of the vote said Stephen Robinson. 86% went somebody else. 8% said Derek McInnes. Hearts fans don't want any of those managers. They want somebody else. And I agree with the majority.
I would say, though, that I think that a lot of it is down to the way that Jimmy Thielen started at Aberdeen. I don't think the polls and I don't think the overall consensus opinion would be as drastic or as high if Jimmy Thielen wasn't doing as well as he was at the moment. I think that some people, I'm not saying everyone, I'm saying some people will take that for granted and say if Hearts do that, then that'll work. I think that obviously there's the risk element there. It could really work, it could really not work. But I think I'm 50-50 because if Hearts fans want to get through this season, do well, finish fourth, and then push on from there, bring in a Scottish manager. But if you want something very sort of special to be built, then bring in a foreign manager. But it's very, very risky going for a foreign manager at this stage of the season, because if the squad's in a bad place at that moment in time, it's very difficult to turn those players around when in the January transfer window you're not making as much of a turnover as you would be in the summer. So it's a very difficult one for me.
Sorry, Graham. I know we'll get on to it when the Hearts match comes up in a few minutes, but I'm just interested to know, you're saying a foreign manager, right? But you're already 14 points behind Aberdeen. So surely you want stability. You want somebody to come in and be stable with the club, and surely somebody like a Derek or a Stephen Robinson would be an option. No, definitely not. No.
The thing is, I've heard a lot of people say that Derek McInnes would walk to Tynecastle. I don't think he would. Derek McInnes likes full control. He likes full control of transfers and everything at a club, which has got to Kilmarnock. He wouldn't have that at Hearts. He would be working under a different structure. I don't even think Derek McInnes would come to Hearts if he was asked. Stephen Robinson as well, like I said, he's done a decent job at St Mirren. But I want something fresh. I want something different. I know you're talking about stability. This season, I hate saying this, it's a write-off already. We're not getting top 4. We could potentially get 5th or 6th, but we're not getting top 4. Not at the moment. So I would like to go the different route and bring somebody else in.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say the season's over already. I mean, if you look at Aberdeen a couple of seasons ago, they were more points behind in January and they ended up finishing 3rd. So I wouldn't say it's a write-off. I think they've got either the third or fourth best squad in the league. I know things were on a downward slope under Naismith, but I mean, you always get a new manager bounce most of the time. So I mean, it's very difficult because knowing Anne Budge and knowing the Hearts board, they'll probably bring in somebody like an ex-player, which is what they've done so many times in the past. But yeah, I think I don't think the season's a write-off. I think if they make the right decisions, they can still fight for fourth. I think third will be a bit ambitious because of the way Aberdeen are playing, but I don't think the season's a write-off yet for Hearts because, I mean, it's 6 games in, and although things look quite bleak at the moment, it's so easy for things to change, especially in Scottish football. Just look at Aberdeen 2 seasons ago. They were, 20 points behind Hearts and finished above them by the end of the season. So that's what I'd say for that one.
We're bringing back Craig.
That would be fantastic.
Mate, Ireland as well. Anyway, let's we'll come back to talk about Hearts in a wee minute or two, and we'll try and mention Amy's name again. The Motherwell St Mirren game tomorrow, Reagan. I mean, for the last couple of weeks on the show, we've been calling the Makahara derby and all that, but as a Makahara and Stephen Robertson's derby and anybody else in that squad's derby tomorrow. But no, in all seriousness, it's going to be a very entertaining game, this one.
I think it will, Michael. I think I'll probably try and watch some of it. I think it'll be a good match to watch. I think I'll try and be there at the match. So, yeah, I mean, Motherwell, they've obviously gone through last weekend against Dundee United. They've beat them through against Rangers. Obviously, we've spoken about a youngster of theirs who possibly should be getting a wee Scotland call-up, Miller. So he's going to be integral for this match this weekend. But somebody at St Mirren who's really impressed me is Olasanya. Yeah, I think he's a cracking player, that guy. So yeah, I think there is people on this match who can really change a game. So no, I think if you're a St Mirren and a Motherwell fan, it's a match that you go along to and you think this could be a really good match.
Mikey, Motherwell will be on a high after reaching the semi-final last Friday night. But obviously, we always say in football that it's brilliant to have a brilliant result in the cup game or final or whatever. But you've got to go back up tomorrow.
Yeah, and they'll very much know that. They'll be right back into duty as normal. I mean, the league is very much the bread and butter, what you need to get through every other week. So yeah, I mean, Motherwell will know that. They'll know that they need to pick up points, but I mean, they've already done it. They got through the early rounds of the League Cup while playing league football, and I have no worries for them picking up where they left off. I mean, I don't know if they'll win this game. I can't put any money on it. I think it's very sort of 50-50 with who wins. But, I mean, I don't think that them getting to the League Cup will really change anything. I mean, they've already kind of backed up their good performances in the League Cup already.
Yeah, no, and as for St Mirren, it's been a kind of been a bit of a weird season, Graham. But obviously, we spoke about what's been happening off the park. I think the headlines will be made before the game, and it's a shame because it's going to take away the focus of the game to tomorrow. But I mean, St Mirren will have it. As soon as they cross that white line, it's business as usual.
Yeah, it will be. I thought they weren't great against Hearts last week, but they got the job done. They've got really quality players in there, so it will be a difficult game. I mean, it's difficult to see how they're going to do tomorrow. I think Motherwell should get a lift after that game last week because they were very good. But St Mirren are a decent side. They're sitting fifth at the moment. I think tomorrow is a big game for them both. I agree. I think Olasanya's been very impressive so far. He's had a very good season so far. He'll be a big threat to Motherwell tomorrow. They look reasonably solid enough defensively. I think Alec Gogic is probably one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he's a very, very good player. I think tomorrow's it's a tough game to call. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up a draw, to be honest. But I know that Stephen will be happy with Motherwell so far. They've done all right. Obviously got through last week. Lennon Miller, ice cold penalty. You know, a young laddie taking a penalty like that in the last minute. Absolutely superb. So I think it'll be a decent game tomorrow. I think it'll be an interesting game, but I would not be surprised if this ends a draw.
Yeah, Mikey, because Stuart Kettlewell was saying it's going to be a tough game. They're a physical team, and it'll be a tough game. But we'll be going all the way out for 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a manager that's not said it's going to be a tough game. I think that every single pre-match interview you ever see is them saying it's going to be a tough game.
I think I write that down about 6 times a week, Mikey.
Yeah, I know. It's obviously it's very much what they're going to say. You know, there's going to be the whole element, but this time it is going to be a very tough game because you know they're two relatively evenly matched sides. I mean, if you look at last season, St Mirren were obviously better, but it's kind of, I mean, if you're to look at them over the course of the sort of recent history in Scottish football, they've been near enough the similar positions anyway. So yes, it's going to be a bit of a tough game, as I said, but yeah, I think it'll be one for the neutral to hopefully enjoy because I think there'll be a good few goals in the game.
Could you imagine if Brendan Rodgers and his press conference came out against St Johnstone again? We're going to hammer them comfortable.
Yeah, I know.
I would love the honesty of that. Never happened, but
No, I can't say. Yeah, no, so it's okay. Yeah, Graham. Obviously, Stephen will be going to the game. We hope, and yeah. So, do you think? I think there'll be goals in this game.
Well, that's it. Just guaranteed to finish 0-0. Now you've said that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there will be. I think St Mirren have got some decent players up front, like Olasanya. I do think Motherwell have been decent so far this season. So it should be an entertaining game. Hopefully a decent crowd at Fir Park as well. Hopefully Stephen does get along with it. But I can just see it being a scoring draw. But I can see it being quite tight, but a scoring draw. And I think the laddie Oxburgh and go from Motherwell. Hadn't really seen much about him, but he's actually quite solid so far. Been quite impressed with him as well.
Can I actually quickly come in on something? Well, obviously there was this negative ahead of the season where Motherwell, they've lost Liam Kelly. It's a big loss. Aston Oxborough's got a better save percentage than Liam Kelly, and last season Liam Kelly had one of the bottom 3 save percentages in the Premiership for starting goalkeepers. So, I mean, obviously, I think Liam Kelly is a very decent keeper, and it's a bit of a sort of. There's obviously mitigating factors that go into the save percentage, but I think Aston Oxborough's done really well so far this season. So, yeah, I'm very, very impressed by it.
Okay, so that's Motherwell against Mirren tomorrow. Let's look at another interesting game as well at Rugby Park. I'm not going to say it's a tough game because Mikey's sick of me saying that, and I'm sick of writing that down. Every week, you're right, Mikey. Every press conference I go to, they say, "Oh yeah, it's going to be a tough game tomorrow, and a very difficult side." And I don't know who that was an impression of, but anyway. Kilmarnock against Dundee United. Mikey, Dundee United's coming off the back of going out of the quarterfinals of the League Cup 2. The team we were talking about a minute ago, Motherwell, and Dundee United is coming into this game. Had not a game last week, so this is going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
I guess I got for you, Mikey.
Yeah. It's one of those games where I think that obviously Kelly needs to improve. They've not had the best start to the season, but I mean, if you look at Dundee United, they've sort of, I'd say, slightly overperformed their expectations in the early stages of the season. They've been very decent, I think. And Kelly, I mean, we know what you're meant to see from them, very solid defensively, but they haven't scored enough goals this season so far. They've really struggled in that element. So yeah, I think that it's one of those games where it could really go either way, and genuinely, it's another one where I think it could be a draw. Kelly need to start putting some more points on the board. Dundee United, they need to try and bounce back from the back-to-back defeats, but I don't think they've been necessarily bad in the games that they've lost this season. So yeah, it's going to be quite as the cliche goes, it's going to be quite a difficult game.
Yeah, difficult as it is. Yeah, hashtag difficult. Graham, what do you think of this game tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, Kelly have got no wins in 6, and they've not been outstanding. But I did say start the season, there's always that one team that drops off. Didn't expect it to be Hearts, to be fair, but I did say Kilmarnock would drop off, and they have. They've been nowhere near the levels they were last season. And Mike is right, they're not scoring enough goals. Rugby Park, you always kind of fancy them, though. You know, I think United have been excellent so far. They've been very impressive. Started the season a lot better than I thought they would. I thought they played well in stages last week, but then obviously lost that game in the very last minute. But they've shown a lot of decent signs so far. Again, I think home advantage might help Kilmarnock here. But again, I don't think this will be a high-scoring game. I mean, Danny Armstrong hasn't really hit the heights yet. He's got to eventually start turning up in some of these games, and I think tomorrow he will. But yeah, I think Kilmarnock might just sneak this one. But again, I don't think about a high-scoring game, but I just fancy Kilmarnock to win this.
Sorry, Graham, I just want to come on your point there. Do you think the Danny Armstrong thing is because of all the hype, because he was destined to leave? There was talk of going to the Euros. There was talk of people coming in for a few $100,000 to buy him. So do you think that's all played on his mentality?
I don't think so. I wouldn't like to think that's the case anyway. I mean, I suppose every player's going to have that, but it's just not been... He's not had a great start to the season so far, but Kelly have not had a great start to the season, to be honest. There's no doubt Danny Armstrong's a quality player, and I think, to be honest, all the Scotland talk was mainly media talk. It was nobody else. It was really media that kind of said that. So I don't think anything like that. He's just not having a great start. But tomorrow's a game that he could easily win the game on his own, because there's no doubt in the quality he's got. If he's in form, then he can cause United a lot of problems. But Kilmarnock just have been nowhere near the level they were last season. But I expected that, though. You know, playing Thursday, Sunday European games is very difficult. And I just didn't think Kilmarnock could have scored for that. I think now they're at Europe, they will improve. And I can see them winning tomorrow. But like I said, I think it'll be very tight, because United are a very good side this season. And I think they'll give it a really good go.
Derek McInnes was holding his press conference on Wednesday. What a random day for a press conference, but there you go. He says we missed a game last week because we are out of the cup, but we are ready for the game this weekend. And he said Dundee United have started well. For Dundee United, Jim Goodwin says it's always a very difficult game, Mikey.
Wow.
From our home games, Derek McInnes teams are always a difficult team to play against. And then he says, so it's going to be a very tough game, but the boys will be out for it. By the way, I'm not making this up, Mikey, right? Obviously you can't see this, right? But this is my notes before the game, right? So I'm not making this up. But now that you don't like the word tough, I'll try and get it in the show every week for you. How about that? So yeah, I mean, Dundee United. I like to see United back in the Premiership. Mikey, they're a good team, and we were talking about a fan base early on. That as a club was a massive fan base up in Dundee at away games as well.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They're one of the biggest sides in the country. They're probably outside of the Big Five, probably the team that's closest to that. And yeah, it's always good to see the big sides up in the Premiership that bring the big crowds, and they have the big support. So yeah, it's good to see. And I mean, we've seen probably the best stuff from Dundee United in a couple of seasons since they've come back up. They've kind of got that weird formation where they've got the 4 centre backs on the park, and that's really worked for them so far. So yeah, it's been very, very decent for them in my opinion. And yeah, as the cliche goes, it'll be a difficult game for them going to Rugby Park. It always is, but yeah, they'll bring a good crowd, and they should be right up for it.
Can I just quickly mention something that I noticed a couple of days ago as well? It was something that Derek McInnes said, and I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to say it. We've talked recently about how good this new kind of VAR independent review panel is and how good the Willie Collins done. But Derek McInnes said after this Kilmarnock St Mirren game, where St Mirren should have had a couple of men sent off, especially the kick out that Sean Rooney had on
coming
to it was on the But basically, Derek McInnes has said that Willie Collum never phoned him about the fact that that shouldn't have been a red card. He had to phone Willie Collum. I think that's really poor. I don't think he should have to phone the guy to say, look, that's a sending off. That should be down to the VAR people to do that. When Derek McInnes said that, I did think of that and I thought that's actually quite poor. Because I have spoken about the fact that Willie Collum has been transparent, which is great. But it shouldn't take a manager to phone you to say, look, I think you got that wrong. That should be done to the people on VAR to say, do you know what? We've made a massive error there that should never have happened. I just thought McInnes' comments were very honest. But I thought it was quite poor from the VAR people that they didn't phone him to say, look, that should have been a sending off.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you were to watch that, if anyone was to watch that, I mean, the kick out on Kyle Vassell from Sean Rooney was very poor. And obviously, we went over it at the time, and we've been over it since, that it should have been a red card. And obviously, I really do like the sort of panel that goes over the VAR decisions. And yeah, it's a very good thing, I'd say. But it is slightly disappointing that obviously they have to phone up the VAR people to kind of get an answer for things. But you know what, it's a step forward anyway, and there's always going to be a few issues. You're never really going to get anything that's 100% perfect. So yeah, it's good I think it's still a very good thing regardless of it. But yeah, it's obviously a little bit of a negative element to it.
The only thing I would say, well, I totally agree with you. I think it was a bit unfair of whether or not phoning Derek, because I watched his press conference and they said that. But what I was going to say, Graham, was obviously we don't want to go over all ground and all that because he's done the VR show. But in terms of like when we were sitting and watching the highlights in the house on a Saturday night, we could see it was a sending off. Everyone else would see it as a sending off. These decisions should not go to VR because they're totally, everybody can see it. So why spend 10 minutes over looking at it?
I mean, I don't even know if they looked at that. I thought VAR looked at everything, but I don't know if it's because it wasn't, maybe because he didn't get booked. I don't know if that's why they didn't do it. But it was quite clear, and to be fair to Robbie, he said it as well as a Mirren fan. He said, that's a sending off. I don't know how you can miss that when you've got an official in the park, you've got an assistant referee on the touchline, you've got the VAR. That's what VAR was brought in for. I don't know how you can miss these kind of things, because that could have changed the game. That could have led to a commanding victory. You can't get these things wrong. And the fact that Denny McInnes had to phone them, it should be the other way around. They should be phoning him and apologising and saying, look, really sorry we got that wrong. I think it's been great having this new VAR show. Don't get me wrong. I've said it last week. It's been very transparent. But that, for me, shouldn't have taken that because it was quite clearly a sending off. And I don't know how you can have all those officials and still miss it. It was obvious.
Mikey, that's bad how Willie Collum's not phoning Derek McInnes, because you would think he would do like a phone round, like a doctor's round on a Monday and phone all the managers for that previous weekend.
Yeah, I suppose so, but I mean, I guess it could be the other way. I mean, if obviously we don't know how it goes sort of behind the scenes anyway, so maybe he hasn't phoned anyone anyway, and maybe it's other people having to phone him to get decisions, but to get sort of answers to things. But I mean, you never know how it goes behind the scenes. So I mean, as long as it's very similar to VAR. As long as it's consistent, then I'm absolutely fine with it. If it takes the managers phoning up to say that they're disappointed with something, then absolutely fair enough. But yeah, I don't know how it all sort of runs behind the scenes anyway, so I can't really comment too much on
it. Before we move, I know why Graham's away because they're talking about Hearts next. As well as hiding behind the couch. Hearts is at home to Ross County tomorrow. But you would expect Hearts to be at home to, to be a bit confident because they've got a big European game on Thursday night, and they would want to go into it with a win over Ross County or any side as well. Regan, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, I'm just. I think Hearts they should go in it with some confidence because if some of the players were happy that Naismith left the club. I mean, I can remember first day of the season. I don't know if you remember, Mikey, but all over the Scottish Record and the Sun and the Herald and the Scotsman. All of these people were saying it was Jan Dander said that the Hearts could win the title and
Yeah.
they could split the old firm, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what's kind of led into my sort of discomfort with the way the situation's been handled from the Hearts side. And yes, I know that, I mean, the way that things have been going under Naismith at the moment was not good enough. I mean, as Graham said multiple times, a team like Hearts should not be on a run that they were. But I think the way that Naismith was treated from some of the fan base with some of the stuff that was being said about him, with the real disrespect he was getting from some Hearts fans about him being clueless and not good enough as a manager. I think it happens sometimes where managers will have a really good season, then off the back of that they'll not be as good. But I mean, this season it's obviously not started well at all. But I'm not a big fan of the way that it was treated from some of the Hearts fans, and I mean the way that it was going on in Paisley. I mean, I don't think that was useful at all towards the team's performance. I think it was very detrimental to be sort of calling for the manager's head midway through a game. I'm never a big fan of that. Leave it out until the end of the game at least, because when it got to 70 minutes and the animosity started, even if Hearts got back into that game, that does not have a good look on the club at all. And yes, Naismith is now gone, which you have to say is probably fair enough. But I will just say that I think the way that it was kind of handled by some of the Hearts support was very poor.
Graham, what's your thoughts about Liam Fox taking the team tomorrow?
I have no issue with it. I found it quite funny because a lot of Hearts fans, when he got the job, were like, why is he getting it? He's only getting it for like 3 games. He's not getting it full time. I have no issue with it. It was always going to be an interim manager role. And Andrew McKinley said that a few days ago, and I'm fine with it. I think he'll get it for 3 games. He'll get it for tomorrow, Minsk, and then Aberdeen. And then I think when the international break comes, we'll get a new manager in. But for tomorrow, I have no problem with it. He likes to play 4-2-3-1, the system that I think we're better in. And I'm expecting a reaction tomorrow. I don't know why, but I'm expecting something different tomorrow. Now, I think if Finlay Pollock was still here, he'd have started, but unfortunately sent with Wraith Rovers. Don't know why. But I think we'll see a different Hearts team tomorrow. I think we'll see a team that's got a bit more energy. Press is a bit higher, which I've not seen for the last few weeks. But, I mean, last week was awful. You could tell we were never getting back in that game. And it was definitely time for Naismith to go. I do agree. I don't agree with the abuse that he got through the game. You just don't do that as a fan. After the game, yeah, fair enough. You can vent your frustration. But during the game, no. But there was no... What worried me last week, and I said it last Sunday as well, at half-time, you're 2-1 down. You need a reaction. Your manager's under pressure. You're under pressure. And there was no reaction. We didn't have our first shot until the 83rd minute. And that was really, really poor. I think we've got a very good squad there. But as always, a manager's always the one that gets sacked. And rightly so, because they're not doing well enough. But I think the players have thrown them under a bus. They've not been good enough. A lot of them have been really poor. I'm going to throw Lawrence Shankland in there, who I really, really like after what he did last season. But this season, he has been awful. Every game he's been terrible. He's got the captain's armband and he's not leading by example. I think he's been horrendous. I may get stick for that, but it's just the case. He's been awful this season. But so many players have been so poor. I think Hearts need to show the fans a reaction tomorrow. They need to turn up. They need to show something tomorrow. We have to win this game. I think we will. I've got no basis for that because of how bad we've been, but I think we'll see something different tomorrow. I think the shackles will be let off because I think under Naismith it was possession-based football. We didn't go anywhere. I think we'll see something different tomorrow. And I've no issue with Fox getting it for the first 3 games, but after that, we'll get a new manager in international break, I think.
Can I just quickly come in on something?
Yeah.
And this is kind of my main overriding point with Hearts at the moment is it could be one of 2 ways for last season, because I know that we're kind of basing it off of last season, which is obviously understandable. But I think Hearts are very much were a form side under Naismith. By that I mean when things are going well, the run's fantastic. But as soon as it switches to something a bit more negative, like a loss or even a draw, things can start turning quite bad really quickly. I mean, if you look at the start of last season, things weren't going too well. They got that win at Celtic Park. They went on that unbelievable run. And then, obviously, since it's been very much in decline, I think that it's one of those where, were they as good as it was, as the points total sort of led to last season. I think that there was elements of that where yes, they deserved to be third, because I think the other teams that should have been around them were very poor last season, obviously Aberdeen and Hibs. But yeah, it's one of those ones for Hearts where I think that maybe last season was a little bit not. It's very difficult to explain because I don't think it was misleading, but I think that there was elements of that where the season they had last season was a bit too difficult to replicate again, mostly because of that run they went on. So, I mean, obviously they were nowhere near good enough under Naismith this season, but I think it was some of the fans getting a bit ahead of themselves with the whole second winning the league thing that was going on with obviously Jan Danda and elements of the fan base, not all of them obviously, that was kind of maybe gave Naismith less time because at the start, I mean, there was Naismith out shouts after Dundee, which was their first defeat of the season, which I thought was ridiculous. But the longer it goes on and the longer the pressure builds, it's more difficult to pick up wins because the fans get on your back easier. The team's obviously low on confidence, and it really needs something out of nowhere. And last season that was Celtic away, and at the moment for Hearts before Naismith went, the main issue I saw with them was when would they turn it around. Now, I mean, Ross County at home is a game you should be winning anyway. So, I mean, Naismith, would he have won that game? I think he probably would have. But that then becomes, would he have then got the fans back on side at that point? I don't think so. I think after the Celtic game or after the Motherwell game or after whenever, that was when the fans really started to switch. I'd say it was probably Dundee United at home that done it. So if they go and beat Ross County tomorrow with Stephen Naismith in charge, does that change anything on how the fans think of him? I don't think it would have. And that's why I think they win.
I think if you look at last season as well, Mikey, this might be harsh as a Hearts fan to say this, but if you look at the run we went on, the 12-game unbeaten run, Shanklin scored in every game. And I think that kind of papered over a lot of the cracks. Don't get me wrong, I think Naismith at times did make some really good in-game changes, which is fine. But it coincided with the fact that Lawrence Shanklin couldn't stop scoring. Now he's not scoring, we have nothing. We've scored 3 goals all season. 2 of them are defenders and 1 was Oda. We've not had any other striker scoring this season. Shanklin's not scored all season. So I think if you look at the run last season, you do have to kind of base it on the fact that Lawrence Shanklin couldn't stop scoring. He's not scoring now. And that's a massive, massive issue. That was always my concern, that if Shanklin's had a dip, which happens to everybody, but if he had a dip, do we have other players that can step up? And right now, the answer to that is clearly no.
Liam Fox was talking about the game. He says it's been a busy week and a disappointing way to start it with the news about the manager staff losing their job. And then he goes on to say that's football and the way it is. We have to bounce back and get back to work. As we got a real important fixture on Saturday, I thought we were good in the first half against St Mirren, with the second being a more Mikey's favourite word, difficult game. But every game is difficult, different in the league. Graham, what's your response to that?
I would disagree that we played well first half last week. I thought we were terrible, pretty much all through the game. We got the goal through Kay Calca, but after that we were really poor. I think some players have not done well enough this season, and I think we've also, I don't know if Liam Fox mentioned in his interview, but Gerald Taylor is now out for probably months with an ACL injury. I mean, I don't know what it is with Hearts. Anytime I get injured, it's never like a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It's always months. So that's a massive, massive blow. So it might be a case that Adam Forrester, who's in the B team, might get brought in as a right back. But I think, like I said, the players have got to take a lot of blame as well. They've not been good enough this season. They've been really, really poor. Tomorrow they have to show reaction. I think Tynecastle will be, I think it's nearly a sellout tomorrow, which is good. But they have to show reaction tomorrow. It's been so poor. I don't know how Kent will play tomorrow. I can imagine them sitting back behind the ball. And this is the issue that Hearts have got. When teams come to Tynecastle and sit very deep, we can't break them down. But then you've got creative players in there like Jan Danda, Blair Spittle, Barry Mackay, George Grant, but they're not doing enough. I think we'll see something tomorrow. I think we'll see a reaction. We have to start well. We have to start the game well. I say this every week, especially at Tynecastle. We have to get a win tomorrow. I think Liam Fox, and I'm glad he's not getting a job full time because that was my worry. My worry was that if he won a couple of games, then they might just think, give it to him. I didn't want that. So I'm pleased that Hearts came out a couple of days ago and said, look, Liam Fox is only interim. That's fine. But we have to see a reaction tomorrow. And I do feel sorry for Naismith in a way, because it's never nice to see a manager get sacked. But it was clear that his time was done. But the funny thing is, like I said last week, it was only 6 weeks ago that we gave them new contracts and then we sacked them. But it was the right call. It was the right decision. I think Liam Fox I think he could make a couple of changes tomorrow to just try and freshen it up a little bit. But the players have got to take a lot of responsibility. They have to take a share of the blame here. One thing I would do tomorrow, and I said this on one of my other podcasts as well, as much as I'm a massive, massive Craig Gordon fan, you have to put Xander Clark back in goal. I don't think that Craig Gordon's been good enough this season. I think he's made a lot of mistakes. Listen, he's 42. He's come back after a double leg break. Of course, he's not going to be at it. But Xander Clark, for me, has to come back in, because at the moment, he's a better goalkeeper than Craig Gordon. A lot of Hearts fans might say that's not the case, but it's true. He's a far better keeper just now. You have to bring Clark back in.
Can I also just say, sorry, can I just quickly come in on something with Naismith just before we move on? I think that obviously the way that things went at the end under Naismith was very disappointing, and we all know that. But I think that the players aren't getting enough of the blame. It's going to be the exact same players that were out last week, this week, maybe one or two changes, but it's the bulk of the squad's going to be the same. And Hearts fans, before the St Mirren game and before the Dundee United game and before the Motherwell game, were all going, we need 4-2-3-1, we need to play like this. Naismith implemented that. He might not have put the right players out on the park, but he put the 4-2-3-1 in place, which is what Hearts have been best at, and that still didn't work. So I don't think it's all a Naismith problem. I think Naismith is a very decent manager. He showed it last season. He made some mistakes this season, but I think that any team below Hearts, if there was a free manager role, you should try and go for Stephen Naismith, because I think he's a really decent manager. I just think the way that things were going under the end, sort of at the end, if they were to play Ross County tomorrow with Stephen Naismith, even if they go out and win, that doesn't change anything in a lot of Hearts fans' minds. I think the sort of end sort of result is going to be the same, because the sort of response will be, we should be beating Ross County anyway. And then if they go and lose that game, then things just get worse and worse. I think it was probably the right decision to get rid of Naismith. But I don't think that by any means he should be out of the race for other manager jobs, because I think he's a good manager. And obviously tomorrow it's the same bulk of players. If they go and win, then maybe more of it becomes down on Naismith. But yeah, I don't think the players have been good enough for Hearts. Probably, I think the players have been more to blame than Naismith has been this season.
Mikey, we know you're a Hibs fan, but one of the reasons I like having you on here and stuff and talking to you is because you're very honest. Now, I've just spoken about Lawrence Shankland tomorrow. As an outsider looking in, and I've just spoken about the fact that nobody else is scoring goals. But Shankland's not been good enough this season. If you are Liam Fox tomorrow, are you dropping Shankland? Because I said this last week. I would have played, I know he's not played a lot of games. I would have started Musa last week for something a bit different. So if you're Liam Fox tomorrow, do you drop Shankland? Because I've said it before, I think he's been terrible so far this season.
It's a tough one, because let's be honest, right? Shankland is a better player than Musa Drami. Even though at the moment Shankland's not been good enough. Was he getting the right opportunities? It's hard to tell. I don't think he was. He was in bad positions, but he wasn't getting the same opportunities that he was last season. Musa Drami is very raw. He's a very sort of young talent that was brought in as an experiment, and I mean, it's not like when he played, he's been excellent either. So I don't think there's any guarantee there. Now, it really depends on what Liam Fox wants to do, whether he wants to make changes or whether he wants to try and get through this run of games with probably a few points out of it. I mean, they're probably not going to go up to Pataudry and win. But yeah, I mean, they need to win tomorrow. So if I was him, I probably would drop Shankland, just based on the fact that Shankland's been one of the main problems this season for Hearts. I think that he's been as much to blame as Naismith was, because it was him that was doing all the work for them last season, and he's done barely anything. And his attitude, it's mainly his attitude at the start of the season has been shocking, in my opinion. So yeah, if I was Liam Fox, I probably would, but in his scenario, I don't know if he will, because he doesn't really want to disrupt much massively. I don't think he really wants to disrupt the sort of status quo before he goes. I think it's very much just get to the end of this with an adequate amount of points and a decent couple of performances.
Yes,
I think before we move on, because I want to get to the Aberdeen, the Dundee Aberdeen game, Mikey. But I know what you're saying about the players never kicks the blame. It's the manager always gets the sack, and you always feel a bit unfair about that, but that's the way football goes, sadly, and stuff like that. But Graham makes a good point, because even though Craig Gordon's been a brilliant goalkeeper for Hearts, Scotland and Celtic in the past, I would maybe put Zangia Clark back in goals tomorrow, just because they've got a big European game on Thursday night away from home.
Yeah, you probably would, but I think the problem is, if you were to go back even 3 or 4 weeks ago, I don't think Craig Gordon was too bad against Motherwell. I don't think he was too bad against Falkirk, obviously, apart from the mistake. I don't think he's been good enough, which is obvious because they've conceded a lot of goals and they've not been good enough at the back. But if you look at just in front of him at the defence has been absolutely terrible. Look at the likes of Gerald Taylor. Since the Rangers game, apart from Celtic, he's not been good enough in any of the games. You look at the likes of Oyegoke, who was brought in, and although he's been okay in a few games, I'd say overall he's been quite poor in a lot of them as well. And I mean, James Penrice has fitted in quite well, but apart from that, that back four has been very disrupted and very poor. So, yes, Craig Gordon he's at the age now where I only really thought he got the contract to sort of phase him into a coaching role. That's not really turned out that way so far. But, I mean, yeah, you probably would bring Xander Clark in, but you could have had anyone in goals for a few of their games in the last few weeks and they'd have still lost because the defence in front of them was simply not good enough.
Just to touch as well about something quickly as well, I think maybe the next couple of weeks should be announcing this new investment with Tony Bloom and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they are going to have some sort of say on picking a new manager with their new recruitment stuff. Now, I actually quite like that, because what's going to happen, Andrew McKinley said it, they won't pick the new manager. They will have ideas of who they think should be selected, and then we'll obviously have our opinion as well. Again, I don't know how it's going to work, but I quite like it. It's an exciting time. But again, I think a lot of folk and a lot of Hearts fans have got this opinion that when Tony Bloom comes in, he will have a major say in a lot of stuff. He's not. He's coming in with his recruitment data stuff to help us identify new players, like in January, that we can then sell on for a profit. He won't have anything to do with like the other stuff. He might eventually get a minority investment, but I think a lot of Hearts fans are thinking this guy's going to come in, play money into Hearts, we're going to sign loads of players. That's not what he's there for. He's only really coming in to for us to use his recruitment data, like what they do at Union St. Joa and Brighton. So I think a lot of Hearts fans are getting a bit overexcited. Listen, I'm happy for it. I think it's good, but I think a lot of Hearts fans are thinking that this is something that's not. He's coming in with his recruitment data. He won't be having a massive say in what happens at Hearts, because Foundation of Hearts won't let that happen.
Well, could you imagine the surprise when Stephen Naismith, Robbie Nielsen and Craig Levine aren't on that list? Anne Budge will be absolutely gobsmacked. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the worries for me from a Hibs perspective, because if you look at Brighton, look at their recruitment tactics, look at the profits they make, that's a very, very worrying sign for me, because they've done so well at that.
Surely that's a positive thing for you, Graham. I'm just going to say to you, do you think the Brighton board will have any influence, or do you think they'll just leave people on the board like your Andrew McKinley and people like that to do what they've been doing?
Well, something I said for a while is we don't have a football person on the board, and that always worries me. Now, we do have Graham Jones coming in very shortly from the SFA, which is a good thing. But I think it is a good thing. Now, I listened to Andrew McKinley a couple of days ago in his interview with Hearts TV, and he did say that in terms of recruiting a new manager, we'll have our own options, but we'll also listen to what Tony Bloom and his recruitment data have got to say. And I like that, because the worry for me is when Joe Savage was there, Joe Savage didn't want... Now, Joe Savage was the only football person on the board. Joe Savage didn't want Stephen Naismith, but the board went against him. They can't do that this time. If Tony Bloom has given you his analysis data and you don't listen to him and go down your own route, then what's the point of having him there? But I think it is a good thing when it does come in, but you've got to listen to him. You can't just. I mean, like I said earlier on, if you're going down the same route of Derek McInnes, Stephen Robertson, Alec Neil, if they've got better
players or something like that, Glenn was going to say, but he says it's going to be a very difficult game anyway. Oh no, he's back.
Yeah, I think already. I said a couple weeks ago I didn't know who I want, but I kind of do now. I want Kim Hellberg, Swedish manager. I think he looks a really, really good option.
We are tight for 10, guys, so give us a quick word on the Dundee Aberdeen game tomorrow, Reagan. Two good sides.